Welcome. In this session, I'll be discussing about diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus is a syndrome characterized by inadequate insulin secretion, which leads to chronic hyperglycemia and both acute and chronic complications. The symptoms includes polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, weight loss or weight gain, glycosuria, ketosis, acidosis, and coma. Diabetes has been classified into type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and gestational diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is also called as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. It results from absolute deficiency of insulin. Type 2 diabetes is also known as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus or maturity onset diabetes mellitus. It results from either relative deficiency of insulin or insulin resistance. Gestational diabetes occurs during the period of pregnancy. Basic defect of diabetes mellitus. There is either an absolute lack in the case of type 1 diabetes or a relative lack in the case of type 2 diabetes. Okay, that is absolute lack of insulin production in the case of type 1 diabetes. It may be due to relative lack of insulin production in the case of type 2 diabetes. So in addition with type 2 diabetes, there is an insensitivity or insulin resistance by insulin receptors on the target tissues. So this is the basic defect in diabetes. Okay. So the basic defect in type 1 diabetes is due to autoimmune destruction of beta cells. So absolute deficiency of insulin. In the case of type 2 diabetes, it may be due to relative lack of insulin production, insulin resistance. Okay. The two principal hormones produced and secreted by pancreas is insulin and glucagon. Insulin is produced by the beta cells and glucagon is produced by alpha cells of the Langerhans of pancreas. Insulin promotes the entry of glucose in most of the cells of the body and thus controls the rate of carbohydrate metabolism. The glucose can then be used immediately for energy or it will be stored in the form of glycogen or fat. Pathophysiology of diabetes mellitus. So the main pathophysiology of diabetes mellitus includes beta cell destruction. In the case of type 1 diabetes, the islets of Langerhans secretes two types of hormones. Alpha cells will secrete glucagon and beta cells will secrete insulin. So in the major cause for this diabetes is insulin deficiency. It may be due to beta cell destruction or it may be due to beta cell dysfunction. So due to this insulin deficiency, it will lead to decreased glucose utilization by the tissues, leading to hyperglycemia and excess of glucagon production will lead to gluconeogenesis, which will also lead to hyperglycemia, and insulin will promote lack of this insulin will promote ketogenesis, which will lead to ketoacidosis, leading to diabetic coma, and in the kidney it causes ketonuria, glycosuria, which will finally lead to polyuria and polydipsia. Finally, it will lead to diabetic coma. Increased lipolysis, that free fatty acids will lead to polyphagia. So the major defect pathophysiology in the case of type 1 diabetes is due to HLA linked genetic predisposition, or it may be due to viral infections like mumps, measles, which will cause autoimmune disease leading to the destruction of beta cells of islets of Langerhans in the pancreas, and it will lead to beta cell injury. Finally, it will result in absolute lack of insulin, leading to hyperglycemia and type 1 diabetes. Okay. In the case of pathophysiology of type 2 diabetes, It is totally due to insulin resistance or this beta cell dysfunction. So due to this, in the pancreas, you can find decreased secretion of insulin and increased beta cell apoptosis leading to hyperglycemia. In adipocytes, increased free fatty acids are seen leading to hyperlipidemia, and in the liver cells you can find insulin resistance which will increase the hepatic glucose output, and in muscles also insulin resistance, thereby increasing the glucose output and hyperglycemia. So in type 2 diabetes, it may either impair the insulin action or beta cell dysfunction or death. Okay, so this beta cell dysfunction leads to impaired insulin secretion, and impaired insulin action will result in increased glucose production and decreased glucose utilization. So it will leads to decreased glucose uptake of glucose in the muscles and adipose tissues, leading to increased hepatic glucose output, causing hyperglycemia. Okay, so this is the pathophysiology of diabetes mellitus. Symptoms of type 1 diabetes mellitus. So the major on cardinal symptoms includes polydipsia. Polydipsia means uh, increased excretion of urine. Polydipsia means increased thirst. Okay, so excessive loss of water in urine will cause dehydration, which leads to excessive thirst. That condition is called as polydipsia, increased thirst. Okay, polyuria, which means uh, excess of urine output. Okay, increased urination or large quantity of urine is excreted out. More than 2.5 liters per day is excreted. That condition is called as polyuria. Since body fails to utilize blood glucose, patients may feel excessive hunger. That condition is called as polyphagia. Weight loss, weakness and tiredness is due to absolute insulin deficiency. So due to absolute insulin deficiency, increased breakdown of body fat and proteins resulting in loss of body weight. uh, Due to lack of insulin in the muscles fail to utilize blood glucose, so the patients will feel weakness and tiredness after exercise, and increased catabolism of muscle protein, which will also leads to negative nitrogen balance and muscle wasting, dizziness, and it will also leads to blurred vision. And other symptoms include skin infections, irritability, headache, drowsiness, dry mouth, fatigue and tiredness. The major complication of this type 1 diabetes is ketoacidosis. Okay, uh, when body fails to utilize blood glucose due to lack of insulin, the principal source of energy is obtained from the stored triglycerides. Okay, the stored triglycerides from adipose tissue become the alternate source of metabolic energy. So this excessive triglycerides degradation will provide free fatty acid, which are then converted to ketone bodies in the liver. These ketone bodies will be used for the alternative source of energy for the extrahepatic tissues. Excess of ketone bodies in blood is called as ketonemia, which will lead to ketonuria, and the patients will will be impart a fruity smell in the patient's breath can be felt. That is due to the presence of acetone, and other ketone bodies like acetoacetate and beta hydroxybutyrate will increase will be in the increased level in blood, so it will lower the blood pH, leading to ketoacidosis. So this ketoacidosis is a metabolic acidosis and is an acute metabolic complication of this type 1 diabetes. In severe uncontrolled cases, it may lead to ketoacidotic coma, and in some cases it may also lead to death. Symptoms of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Okay, the cardinal or major symptoms includes weight gain, polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, genital fungal infections, neuropathy, macroangiopathy, microangiopathy, and other symptoms includes blurred vision, decreased vision, impotence, and postural hypotension. Complications of diabetes mellitus. So the complications includes macrovascular complications, which includes atherosclerosis. So in heart we can find congestive heart failure, and in brain it leads to stroke, okay, cerebrovascular stroke, and in the peripheral tissues gangrene will be found, and microvascular complications leads to thickened capillary basement membrane leading to nephropathy, that is kidney failure, retinopathy, blindness, and cataract, neuropathy. Then 50% of all diabetics will experience neuropathy, which will leads to impotence, bladder dysfunction, parathiasis, and neuropathic pains, diabetic neuropathy, including burning mouth, neuromuscular dysfunction, which will lead to muscle weakness and muscle cramps, decreased resistance to infections. So these are the major complications of diabetes mellitus. And the sixth complication of diabetes is periodontitis. So there is lot of evidence which suggests that periodontal disease is more prevalent among, and it is severe among the diabetics than non-diabetics patients. Uh, Periodontitis is nothing but the inflammation of the periodontium characterized by apical migration of the junctional epithelium with associated loss of attachment and alveolar bone. It can onset at any age, which is common in adult, and bacterial plaques will initiate the lesion, which can be modified by local factors, systemic factors, stress, and smoking. So this periodontitis is found to be the sixth complication of diabetes mellitus. Then the other complications includes diabetic ketoacidosis, hyperglycemic, hyperosmolar non-ketotic coma, lactic acidosis, hypoglycemic coma, atherosclerosis, retinopathy, neuropathy, nephropathy, diabetic angiopathy, coronary atherosclerosis, angina pectoris, myocardial infarction, cerebrovascular accident, endothelial dysfunction, renal disease and renal failure, cataract, cutaneous manifestations, and diabetic foot. All these are complications of diabetes. Then the metabolic complications includes hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia. So hyperglycemia, it's due to deficient of insulin, and diabetic ketoacidosis, chronic and slowly progressive. So this hyperglycemia is the most common cause. Okay, it's we can find it's the most common cause in the case of diabetes mellitus. Hyperglycemia is seen in pancreatitis and cystic fibrosis. Then due to hyperglycemic hormones also, hyperglycemia, it results due to hyperglycemic hormones, like in diseases like Cushing syndrome, thyroxine in hyperthyroidism, growth hormone in hyperpituitarism, and epinephrine in the case of hyperadrenalism will also lead to hyperglycemia. Emotional stress and excitement can elevate the blood glucose level due to increased secretion of epinephrine, and pancreatectomy also leads to hyperglycemia. Most of the chemicals and drugs can damage the beta cells of pancreas, will lead to hyperglycemia. And metal toxicity, in the case of iron toxicity means hemochromatosis, and copper toxicity in the case of Wilson's disease will lead to hyperglycemia, which will damage the islets of Langerhans. And in the case of gestational diabetes, women develop 1% of pregnant women can also develop hyperglycemia. Hypoglycemia, it's due to excess of insulin, excess exercise, stress, and poor diet. It is acute and rapidly progressive. So in the case of diabetes patients, that is in the case of type 1 diabetic patients, overdosage of insulin will result in hypoglycemia. and they will take a this type 2 diabetic patients will take hypoglycemic drugs, which may also leads to hypoglycemia. The causes for this hypoglycemia are due to insulinoma, that is tumor of beta cells of pancreas, hypersecretion of insulin, and hypersecretion of insulin also will leads to hypoglycemia. Then it's an important symptom in the case of glycogen storage diseases like von Georg disease, Forbes disease, Coris disease, Hertz disease. Then a hypoglycemia is also observed in hepatic failure in the case of liver cirrhosis due to impaired glycogen metabolism and gluconeogenesis. Prolonged fasting or starvation can also lead to hypoglycemia, where the hepatic glycogen is totally utilized and no dietary carbohydrate will be available. And hereditary fructose intolerance will cause hypoglycemia. Inherited defect in beta oxidation of fatty acids will result in hypoglycemia. Then pregnancy also will lead to hypoglycemia, and impaired intestinal absorption of glucose, alcohol consumption, and postprandial hypoglycemia, all common among the subjects of diabetes. The major complications and symptoms of hyperglycemia includes ketoacidosis. Okay, this diabetic ketoacidosis is the most common cause for this hyperglycemia in the case of type 1 diabetes. And other symptoms includes disorientation, rapid and deep breathing, hot and dry skin, acetone breath, hypotension. Finally, it will lead to coma when the blood glucose increases beyond 300 to 600 milligram per dl. Symptoms includes extreme thirst, frequent urination, dry skin, hunger, blurred vision, drowsiness and nausea. Hypoglycemia. It's unlikely that hypoglycemic symptoms will occur if the blood glucose levels are greater than 45 milligram per dl. In the case of CNS and androgenic adrenergic effects, headache, mental confusion, sweating, tachycardia, tremor, nervousness will be there when the blood glucose level is below 40 milligram per dl. Symptoms include shaking, fast heartbeat, sweating, anxious, and dizziness, hunger, impaired vision, weakness, fatigue, headache, and irritability. Disorientation will occur when the blood glucose level falls below 30 milligram per dl or less. Seizures and coma will be there when the blood glucose level falls below 25 milligram per dl. Laboratory diagnosis of diabetes mellitus. So we can diagnose this diabetes by taking random blood glucose. The normal fasting blood glucose is between 70 to 110 milligram per dl. So if this level exceeds more than if the fasting blood glucose exceeds more than 126 milligram per dl, symptoms, and if the symptoms also like polyuria, polydipsia, weight loss, and casual blood glucose is about 200 milligram per dl, we can confirm the presence of diabetes. And the two or postprandial glucose should be greater than 200 milligram per dl, and the glycosylated hemoglobin HbA1c should be greater than 7%. All this will confirm the presence of diabetes. So this HbA1c, the normal, for the case of normal patients it should be below 5.7%. okay, so if then for normal it is 4 to 5.6%, and for pre-diabetics it should be 5.7 to 6.4%. And in the case of diabetes, if the level is more than 6.5 to 7, we can confirm the patient is suffering from diabetes. This HbA1c is will measure the amount of glucose attached to hemoglobin. So the RBC lifespan is about 120 days. So we can determine the 3 months glucose control with the help of HbA1c levels values. Okay. So this HbA1c will react with glucose to form glycated hemoglobin. This level will predict the rate of formation, okay, rate of glucose which is present in the past 2 to 3 months. Okay, so this HbA1c value depends on the life of RBC and glucose concentration. And oral GTT. This oral GTT also will be taken as a confirmatory test to confirm the presence of glucose. So this oral GTT is performed to evaluate the ability of body to regulate the blood glucose level after the intake of test glucose. So mostly 75 gram of test dose of glucose has been given to the patient, and fasting blood sample is collected and urine sample is also collected, and then after intake the person is given orally 75 gram of glucose. Again venous blood and urine samples are collected at every half an hour interval for the next 3 hours, and graph is plotted against the corresponding time intervals. Okay, graph should be plotted. So for the normal glucose tolerance curve, the fasting blood glucose level remains within the range of 70 to 110. Okay, so the normal fasting blood glucose will be 70 to 110 milligram per 100 ml, which will increase to greater than 140 milligram per dl at 1 hour. Okay, at 1 hour it will reach the peak of 140 milligram. Then again it will come back to normal level within 2 hours. So no glucose and ketone bodies will be detected in the urine samples in the case of normal persons. Okay, so this is normal glucose tolerance curve. And in the case of diabetic curves, the poor glucose tolerance will be shown in the case of type 1 and type 2 diabetes patients. The fasting blood glucose will be more than 140 milligram per dl at the time of fasting level itself. It will be greater than 140 milligram, and which will increase greater than 200 after 1 hour of glucose intake, and it will never reach the normal value within 2 to 2.5 hours. Okay, so this is the diabetic, that is diabetic curve or diabetic glucose tolerance curve. So this can be taken as a confirmatory test to diagnose the presence of glucose. Management of diabetes. Diet is diet in diabetics can be used to manage the diabetes. Then physical exercise, diabetic food care, anti-diabetic drugs, insulin injections. Okay, then sulfonylureas. These are the how to manage the diabetes in the case of type 1 and type 2 diabetics. So drugs like sulfonylureas, glimepirides, biguanides, glucosidase inhibitors, hypertension control drugs, all can be help to control the diabetes among the type 2 diabetes. In the case of type 1 diabetes, insulin injection should be taken. Okay, so this major difference between this type 1 and type 2 diabetes is type 1 diabetes, the onset will be early, whereas type 2, the onset will be it's also called maturity onset diabetes, and it usually occurs in the adults. Then 10% will be type 1 type, and 80% will be of type 2 types. The most common cause of this type 1 diabetes is absolute lack of insulin due to autoimmune destruction of beta cells. And in the case of type 2 diabetes, it is due to relative deficiency of insulin caused due to dysfunction of the beta cells or due to insulin resistance. So in the case of type 1 diabetes, the metabolic changes includes hyperglycemia, ketoacidosis, and hyperlipoproteinemia and hypertriglyceridemia. Whereas in the case of type 2 diabetes, hyperglycemia, glycosuria, and hypertriglyceridemia is common. Ketoacidosis is not common in the case of type 2 diabetes. Life-threatening metabolic complication is ketoacidotic coma. In the case of type 2, it is hyperosmolar coma. Symptoms: polyuria, polydipsia, and polyphagia, and loss of body weight, weakness, and tiredness in the case of type 1. And in the case of type 2, patients may show polyuria and polydipsia. Polyphagia is not common, and loss of body weight is usually not seen. Treatment. Okay, in the case of type 1 diabetes, exogenous insulin injection should be administered to control the blood glucose level. Oral hypoglycemic drugs like sulfonylureas are ineffective to control the blood glucose level in the case of type 1 diabetes. Oral administration of insulin is ineffective since insulin is a peptide hormone which can be easily degraded by the proteolytic enzymes of the gastrointestinal tract. In the case of type 2 diabetes, weight reduction and dietary modifications, physical regular exercise can control the blood glucose level, and oral hypoglycemic drugs like sulfonylurea, glimepirides, biguanides, glucosidase inhibitors, and hypertension control drugs can be effective to control the blood glucose level in the case of type 2 diabetes. Insulin therapy is not usually required. Insulin therapy may be needed only in the case of severe cases where patients do not respond to oral hypoglycemic drugs. Future treatments includes pancreas transplantation, pancreatic islet beta cell transplantation, glucose sensors, external and implantable pumps, insulin analogs. So these are the recommended future treatments for diabetes mellitus. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe and support the channel by Chemistry DSP.